Hello everybody, Adam Clery here from FourFourTwo, and Liverpool have done it! They've gone and won the most prestigious trophy in the entire world of sporting energy drink marketing crossovers. And I will now commemorate that success by becoming the first person you've ever actually seen drink a Carabao. But how did that possibly happen, I hear you ask? Well, very simple, because when life gives Jurgen Klopp lemons, he makes f***ing silverware. Alright, so battered, bruised, down to the bare bones. This was the Liverpool side Klopp was able to name for this final, and where do you even start? No Trent Alexander-Arnold, no Mohamed Salah, no Szoboszlai, no Curtis Jones, no Jota, no Darwin Núñez also, which I thought was bad, but a lot of other people didn't. Now this side is not really able to play in many of the ways that Jurgen Klopp would like to play. There is no Trent Alexander-Arnold to invert from fullback. He opted not to use Joe Gomez to do a pale approximation of this. There's no Mo Salah. So the way they function in the final third with the interchanges between the forward and the number 8 and Salah, that couldn't do that either. But nonetheless, Liverpool are a team who tend not to feel the weight or the pressure or the problem of injuries too much, because Klopp is incredibly good at just getting loads more out of the unit rather than losing the individuals. And in the first half an hour, it was actually working pretty well. Like, both Endo and McAllister were able to get on the ball in quite deep areas. Harvey Elliott was then coming in to give them numerical superiority in the middle. This allowed Connor Bradley to do Connor Bradley things all the way down the right-hand side. They controlled the ball really well at the back, which was drawing Chelsea out. They were pressurising Chelsea really well in their final third. They were winning loads of free kicks and turning the ball over. It wasn't perfect Liverpool, but it was on top. But then, Ryan Gravenberch's ankle took a harder roll to the left than this country will at the next general election, and he had to go off, which forced Liverpool into this change. Joe Gomez came on at right back, except no, he didn't. Harvey Elliott went into the inside number 8, except no, he didn't. And Connor Bradley went to the right-hand side, except no, he didn't. Between this point here, the 30th minute, and the end of normal time, Liverpool became steadily more disjointed. Their structures broke down, and Chelsea grew into the game. And I'll just show you why that was, okay? This is Connor Bradley's heat map from about the 30th minute when the substitution was made until he himself went off. You will see he does sort of hold a little bit of width here, but he's actually getting in field more. He's almost playing as a centre forward. And the reason for that is because this is Cody Gakpo's heat maps. He's not really holding that centre forward position. He's dropping off into the channels to try and get on the ball. So there's this big space in the middle that Bradley felt he had to fill. Now, whether he was instructed to or not, I don't know, but he was going there and it was taking him off the wing. Now, theoretically, that lack of width isn't a problem, because I'll now just show you Harvey Elliott's heat map from after that substitution. Despite playing nominally as the 8 inside the pitch, he was drifting all the way out to the right-hand side to get on the ball. Now, the mad thing about this is, because Harvey Elliott actually started on the right-hand side, you could see part of what Liverpool wanted him to do was then drift in field, similar to the way Trent might have done it from right back, like partially because it then gives them an extra man in the middle so they can outnumber Chelsea's 3, but also if he's coming in unmarked in sort of this slightly deeper area, he can then pick passes out again similar to Trent. So they're trying to replicate his impact on the game, but from slightly higher up. But because of the Gomez-Gravenberch substitution, he was now sort of doing that the wrong way round. When Bradley would push into the middle to fill that Gakpo gap, he would come out here and get the ball, except there wasn't really a whole lot on for him at this point. But the reason this was a massive problem and how Chelsea started to exert control over the game was it meant that Liverpool went from a situation where they had 4 versus 3 in the middle to a situation where they had 3 versus 2. Chelsea were able to get control there. You see, I think, and bear with me on this one, that Liverpool's plan was something along the lines of, if we let Gakpo drop and we let Bradley push there and we let Elliott move out wide, Gomez can then sort of invert, and then we end up with like Gakpo, McAllister, Endo and Gomez all in the middle, and that will work. But the problem is there's far too many moving parts here to do it just on the fly in the middle of a game. Like, if Liverpool had started with this 11, then you would imagine they would have worked on this in training and it might have come together a little better. But the fact they just had to just come up with it off the top of their heads 30 minutes into the cup final, it was really disjointed. It kept leaving Endo massively exposed, and Chelsea should have gone on and made them pay for that. Now, this video, in the end, will all be about Virgil van Dijk, but just right now, because I mentioned his name, I want to talk about Endo. Football, you see, is a very nuanced game, and multiple things can be true at the same time. Chelsea were able to get control of this game and create the chances that should have won it for them because of how badly isolated Endo was in the middle. Gomez wasn't getting into this space as much as he was meant to. McAllister was massively tiring as the game had gone on. Elliott was pulling out to this side. You had Bradley pushing up. He kept getting basically left 3 versus 1 in the middle of the pitch. And while this led to pretty much everything good that Chelsea did, he was also superhuman in this situation. Chelsea's best chance, that Conor Gallagher chance, only occurs because Endo has way too much ground to cover. He's got too many things to be watching at the same time. He gets drawn towards Enzo Fernandez, which is the correct thing to do. Now, that should be absolutely fine, but Harvey Elliott has pulled back out onto the right-hand side, so he's way too ahead of the ball. And Joe Gomez hasn't come inside. He's held his width, so he's now marking the Chelsea winger. So it's just him in the middle, meaning Conor Gallagher is free to make a run. And you can see when Palmer picks up the ball, Madueke has cleverly made his run into the middle to pull Gomez all the way back into the centre, leaving this enormous space on the left-hand side. And Endo's like, that I've got to get there. But he can't because he had to get to Fernandez 3 seconds ago, so he can't be everywhere at once, although he was pretty close. Just looking at the numbers for the game, his defensive contribution in this was absolutely huge. No player won more duels than he did across those 90 minutes. He was winning tackles, he won the odd header here and there, he was receiving the ball off the defense. It was honestly one of just the most under-the-radar elite performances I think I've ever seen in a cup final. There was one little moment over on the touchline as well where he played it around Fernandez and then went into the middle and barged Caicedo off the ball, and I just thought, you having to go out there is why Chelsea are getting all these chances. But at the same time, you've got this entire midfield on strings. Man of the match for me, honestly. But anyway, yes, Conor Gallagher gets that amazing chance because they're pulling Endo all over the place. But he doesn't score it, and we go into extra time, and then suddenly something just happens. Jurgen Klopp makes a host of substitutions, which on the face of it looked absolutely mental. He brings on Jayden Danns up front, Bobby Clark and James McConnell in the middle, and Jarrell Quansah at the back. Now, Quansah we've admittedly seen quite a bit of this season, but the other three could count their senior Liverpool minutes on their hands and their toes, and yet all of a sudden the game just starts to slip away from Chelsea. That might sound a bit dramatic, but just bear with me, right? So Chelsea's substitutions had basically put them in a position where when Liverpool had the ball, they were relying on Cole Palmer, absolutely shattered, Enzo Fernandez, absolutely shattered, and Moises Caicedo, absolutely shattered, to sort of harry them and try and get it back. Conor Gallagher had been single-handedly leading their press. It's no coincidence, by the way, that Chelsea's grip on this game faded when he had to go off with cramp. And the 3 players they'd brought on to sort of freshen their legs up were Nkunku, Mudryk, and Madueke. 3 players who have a lot to like technically, but don't really work that hard to win the ball back. And what slowly then started to happen, right, was that Liverpool's young players, who must have been terrified with nerves, were vastly inexperienced in this kind of situation, were allowed to play. And that meant that Chelsea were giving this Liverpool team the one thing they couldn't afford to give them, and that was time on the ball. Like, I put it to you this way, right? The only real difference when you boil it down between a young prospect who's full of talent and an experienced pro who you can trust in these big games is experience. Like, it's the ability to just recognize situations around you, to have been in them before, and make correct decisions very quickly. And the one thing Chelsea had to do then was deny them that, was to force them into the sort of mistakes that their inexperience should bring. I'm going to show you exactly what I mean, right? This is James McConnell, a player who has 3 Premier League appearances to his name this season for an average of 4 minutes a time. He is 19 years old. He has been thrown on in the Carabao Cup final, and I promise you, he is filling his kecks. With 10 minutes to go, he receives the ball just outside Chelsea's final third. He gets his head up, and there's not a single blue shirt anywhere near him. Carries it into the centre of the pitch, as he has undoubtedly been told to do, taking very small, very delicate touches, because that challenge must be coming in any second now. He wants to keep the ball close to his feet, but it doesn't. In fact, as Fernandez and Caicedo, £200+ million worth of footballers, close the space he's moving into, he can just stop and put his foot on the ball. And if you're a Chelsea fan, you must be pulling your flipping hair out here, right? Because he gets his head up and he looks around and there's no obvious easy pass. Liverpool have committed men forward. If you jump him, both of you, right now, you force a player with 12 Premier League minutes behind him this season to make a snap decision about what to do with that ball. Now, maybe if you do that, he skips between the area and he slams it into the top bin. That is a probability, but the probability of James McConnell doing that to you versus the probability of, say, Dominic Szoboszlai doing that to you is infinitesimal. But they don't. They just stand there, they let him do a full scan of the pitch, and he plays it back to Jarrell Quansah. And then somehow, it gets worse. The same player not 2 seconds later is free to jog back to collect this from Kelleher. He is the most inexperienced player on the entire pitch, and he is about to receive this ball with his back facing the rest of his teammates and 2 Chelsea players within 5 yards of him. If they jump him here, even if they just deny him the time on the ball, he could very well make the sort of mistake that a 19-year-old is likely to make. But what happens instead? They're just so casual about it, and he turns under no pressure whatsoever, and he carries the ball 30 yards up the pitch until again Caicedo and Fernandes just stand on the spot and force him to go around. And he so very nearly puts Harvey Elliott in here. Again, just a reminder, from this position, probably the most perfect scenario for a pressing trap you could possibly imagine. But Chelsea just show all the intensity of a warm hug, and then lo and behold, it costs them dearly. Now, Van Dijk's header is obviously excellent, and it's a great near-post run that shows Mudryk as another one who just doesn't want to make the required levels of commitment. But how did Liverpool get that corner? James McConnell, with 12 Premier League minutes to his name, gets the ball in Chelsea's final third and is not put under any pressure whatsoever. Gives the ball to Bobby Clark with 44 Premier League minutes to his name this season, is not put under any kind of pressure. He gets a shot away, it takes a deflection, and it goes out. And this is why Jurgen Klopp is just so good at in-game management and getting more out of a team than just the sum of its parts. So many managers would have been too scared to throw that many young players into that situation, but he recognised that Chelsea's ability to press was gone, to harry was gone, that they were lethargic and they were going to give his players time and space. And if you give any player time, if you're good enough to sit on Liverpool's bench and be thrown on in a cup final, you are too good to be given time and space. And in that exact circumstance, the lack of experience you have does not matter as much as the energy you're suddenly able to bring. And because Liverpool had all these fresh players on, they were outworking Chelsea and they got their reward. And just, I can't end this video without talking about Virgil van Dijk, because as that game went on, as everybody around him on both teams wilted under just the time and the pressure of it all, he seemed to get stronger and stronger and stronger. The goal was obviously a really great way to cap it off, but I think he personally will probably be more pleased with just the amount of times he found himself in the exact right position just to snuff something out before it got even bigger. And I think as well, for all we're saying that inexperience Liverpool ended up having on the pitch, I just can't imagine what it must be like being like a 19-year-old in one of the scariest environments you could possibly find yourself, and then turning around and Virgil van Dijk's telling you it's okay. That just leadership and presence and composure is something that's completely lacking from that Chelsea side. And even if by the end of the game, it was pretty much just him that had been in these kind of games before, that does transmit throughout the rest of the squad. Like, it's an intangible, but it matters so much. So well done him, and well done Jurgen Klopp for making some of just the bravest, boldest substitutions I think I've ever seen in certainly a domestic cup final. Like, if you're going to throw that many kids on and make them all believe they can win that game, you deserve to win that game. Anyway, that's enough from me. I've got a really long day ahead now editing this and getting the taste of fucking Carabao out of my mouth. Now, if you have enjoyed this video, we are like this close from having the best ever month we've ever had on the channel. So if you're a Liverpool fan and you think some other Liverpool fans might enjoy this, then please do send it their way and tell them that it's worth however long it is of their time. And also, if you've not already subscribed to the channel, this is the one thing that really does help us out. And I so nearly beat the record in January, and we're so close to doing it in February. So your choice, but I think it would make you happy. You want to make me happy, though? You can get me on all the socials at Adam Clery, Clery. The 442 socials are in the corner of the video for you at all times. Look how pretty the latest issue of the mag is. Hey, that's something. Available all good retailers and the crap ones too. But until next time, yeah, what a final that was. What a final that was. Goodbye.